In the Philippines, drug dealers and addicts face death squads made up of both police and civilians as part of a brutal crackdown on drugs in the country. Tonight, a revealing edition of National Geographic's Explorer takes a look at the violent drug war launched by President Rodrigo Duterte. Here's a preview.
So what do we know about what happened?
What we know are hearsays from the neighborhood. It's one of those vigilante killings.
Fewer than half of the 6,000 deaths from this drug war are caused by police. The majority of victims are murdered by vigilantes, some of whom are empowered mercenaries paid by the cops. Other vigilantes are believed to be civilians, gangs, or drug lords looking to get rid of rivals or settle an old score with a neighbor. It's widely rumored that these killers could also be the police themselves, acting as a secret death squad, something Duterte denies.
Feel free to call us, the police, or do it yourself if you have the gun. You have my support. You can kill him, and I'll give you a medal.
The government has argued that these speeches should not be taken literally, and it may well be the case. On the other hand, the scale of the killings will tend to indicate that some people may be taking those speeches literally.
Na-verify nila na apat yung patay sa taas sa second floor. Nakilala nila sa mga alias lang, si alias Onay, alias Olan, at si alias Lee. May mga balin po mga wala. At yung turon na to ay known as the drug dealer.
People feel like they can operate with impunity, right?
Exactly. As long as it's under the drug war, as long as we get rid of drugs, the end justifies the means.
So we're only 4 hours into our overnight shift with the press corps, and we've already got 5 bodies. Actually, a lot of the members of the local press are leaving. They know that inevitably there will be more on just another Monday night, a couple weeks before Christmas here in Manila.
Joining me now is the reporter you saw in that clip, Ryan Duffy. Ryan, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
So, President Duterte took office in June of 2016. As you said, more than 6,000 Filipinos have died because of this war on drugs. Give us a sense of what it's like when you talk to some of these family members who've lost family members in a country where it doesn't appear, at least when it comes to this, that there is any kind of rule of law or even due process.
Yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing, right, is that this is happening, as we say in the piece, with impunity. The first 6 months have seen over 6,000 bodies. There's been a bit of outcry since, but by and large, this is a campaign that, yes, it's targeting drug dealers, drug users, but really it's targeting the lowest socioeconomic class in the Philippines. So the people you're talking about, the victims and the family members of the victims, really don't have a platform. They don't have a voice to fight back against this, and that's one of the reasons it's kind of carried on as it has.
And have we seen, or have you seen, any indication that it's working as far as the flow of drugs into the country or the number of people using them or the exportation of narcotics?
No, I mean, it's difficult to quantify, right? And when you build a big enough tent, as Duterte has, he has said, essentially, he set up this construct where drugs are the root of all evil. So it's the drug dealers and drug users who are also robbing people, who are also raping people, who are also murdering people. So he's essentially created this boogeyman where he's allowed to kind of eradicate this problem that he sees as super pervasive. But in reality, the drug problem in the Philippines wasn't out of whack with surrounding areas and relatively within the norm. So it's tough to say whether it's working or not, but what you can say quantifiably is that the murder rate in the Philippines over the course of the first 6 months has gone up over 60%.
Wow. And for those, there was a proclamation made that if you are a drug user or if you are a drug dealer, you can surrender to the police. Are people, I would think that would be in a country where there's extrajudicial killings, which is what it appears to be happening in the Philippines, that you'd be too afraid to do that.
Well, that's the interesting thing is you're too afraid to do it, but you're too afraid to not. It's a little bit of a rock and a hard place. So what's happening, and this is a lot of what we deal with in the piece that is airing tonight, is over 1 million people have come forward and said, look, I need help. I need some sort of program or some sort of assistance from the government isn't actually equipped to provide that. They are equipped to kill. They are equipped to instill fear. They are not equipped to put people in rehabs, which are all overflowing. They're not equipped to put people in hospitals, which are all overflowing. The jails are this has been well documented, overflowing. So the country's resources are taxed, and you have this over 1 million people at this point who have come forward, and they kind of don't have anything to do with them, which I think really lays the government's actual intentions bare. This is not a treatment program. This is an eradication program at any means necessary.
Is President Duterte popular? I mean, you talk about how this is disproportionately affecting those on the lower rungs of society. I wonder what those who are on the higher rungs, or those the upper middle class, the upper class people of the Philippines are taking to this. Is he a popular president?
He is. He actually has an approval rating that hovers around 80%.
Wow.
And look, he campaigned on this promise. So everything that's happening, I think some of the tactics are a bit more brutal than people expected. But they're not surprising. This is also what he did as mayor of Davao City, he had the Davao Death Squad. So this was kind of his MO when he took office and kind of did exactly what he told people he was going to do. So he is popular, and because he has created this construct where drug dealers are the evilest dredge of society who are responsible for all societal ills, people are actually seeing it as, justified in some weird way.
All right, you report that some people who surrender go to a mandatory class, specifically a Zumba exercise class. We have a clip of that. Let's play it, and then we'll get your response on the other side.
So how did you first get involved in this kind of program, Zumba for Surrenders?
I want to be part of their change because Zumba is the way to change.
Zumba is the first step to change.
To change, yes.
It's interesting. I've never heard that before. You're put on a list, you decide to surrender, you fill out a form pledging you won't use drugs again, and then from there they say, okay, step 1, Zumba, meet Rodrigo, let's go.
Detox.
All right, detox, cool.
Zumba appears to be the Philippines' most lighthearted way to address the drug problem. A dance party to sweat your way to sobriety. But the class is also surrounded by cops who are taking photos of everyone here.
What happens to folks who are supposed to be here who are not here? Are the consequences potentially fatal?
I'm not in the position to answer that.
Right.
Because I don't know really what will happen. Because I am just the Zumba instructor.
All right, so that's a study in contrast there. On one hand, we talk about the fear that the folks there have of perhaps being killed in an illegal manner. And on the other, the government is saying, look, if you got a problem, go to this Zumba class. Is it that they're going to the class because it's a way for the government to track them down? Or is it really a program that they're offering for people to get better?
I guess it's kind of both in a way, right? It is certainly a tracking program. You saw cops around the perimeter of that class. They were taking attendance, and people who weren't there were noted, and people were dispatched to go track them down. But it is also, I think, a somewhat lighthearted illustration of this kind of patchwork solution that people are trying to come up with on the fly. Because on one hand, you do have the government and potentially nefarious motives, but on the other hand, you do have, the Zumba instructor and a lot of the community organizers we talk to, faith-based people, who are trying to come up with something, popsicle sticks and chewing gum style, to help these 1 million+ people who have surrendered and who are trying to escape this brutal drug war.
The president has said, or has encouraged civilians to take matters into their own hands. In that clip that we played, he said, I'll give you a medal if you do that. Are people, civilians who are not police officers or members of the military who kill drug dealers, whether they are innocent or guilty, are they being tried? Are they being arrested? Are they being convicted or no?
There's virtually no accountability right now, and that's what they've created, is essentially a permission structure for murder. And that is at times carried out by the cops, at times carried out by vigilantes, but at times it's just a great chance for someone who has an old grudge in their neighborhood to all of a sudden take the law into their own hands, and that's a tough genie to put back in the bottle once you've allowed murder, right?
Yeah, and I guess I wonder, I'm really excited to see this piece. I mean, when you talk to the police, or even at the highest levels of the Philippine police force, I mean, are they supportive of this on camera? Are they saying this is a good thing? Or are they like, hey, we're trying to keep a handle on this ourselves. It's really hard for us to go after these drug dealers and after the vigilantes.
They are, I mean, look, they stop short of saying, look, we're out here taking the law into our own hands. Of course, they stop short of saying that. But they are very clear about the tactics they feel are necessary in a war like this. And they are very clear about the orders that have come from the top down. And that's really what you get when you have Duterte saying what he says in the press. And a lot of his aides will say, oh, you can't take him literally. You can't
I've heard that before with other presidents, where people say, you know, you can't take what he says literally, but if you're the man at the top, that's a lot of blanket cover.
That's exactly right. And the parallels that you allude to between some of what's happening here and what's going on in the Philippines are kind of impossible to ignore. This president who rode a populist wave of support into office, brash talking, going to be hard, going to restore law and order, doesn't talk to us like a politician. That's what a lot of people say about Duterte. And as an American who was there in December, it's impossible not to, you know, see some of the parallels.
Really fascinating stuff. Ryan Duffy, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You can watch Ryan Duffy's full report, Drugs, Death, and Duterte on National Geographic tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern.